Hello inquisitive learners. In today's English learning class, I'll be explaining you the second poem of your book Behave, that is Wind. Dear students, all of you know that wind is a natural phenomenon. In this poem, the poet speaks about the destructive powers of the wind. And he also gives a message to all the human beings that how should they take difficulties and problems in their lives. In this poem, wind is the symbol of all the trials and tribulations human beings have to confront during their life. It refers to all the problems and hardships one has to go through in one's life. And the poet gives us a message that we should stay strong against the adversities. We should not give up. We shouldn't succumb. We shouldn't surrender. So let's explore the beauty of this poem in between the lines. I'll explain this poem word for word to you, and I would expect you to imbibe everything taught in this lecture. Let's begin. Wind comes softly. The poet begins the poem by starting conversation with wind. He just makes a request to wind that wind should come softly. He wants the wind to behave like a child. Like a child walks softly, and there is delicacy in the gait of a child. Similarly, the poet wants wind to behave like a child. Further, he communicates, don't break the shutters of the windows, don't scatter the papers, don't throw down the books on the shelf. Here, the poet is, poet is presenting wind as an extremely destructive power. He says that when wind blows in a violent manner, when wind is harsh, when wind is at its best of the destructions, it doesn't spare anyone. It breaks all the shutters of the windows, it scatters the paper around, it throws down the books which have been arranged on the shelf. There, look what you did, you threw them all down. He is just communicating with the wind and pointing towards the destruction caused by the wind, asking that what wind did. He threw all the objects down. You tore the pages of the books. He further points towards the destruction caused by the wind by saying that wind tore all the pages of the books. You brought rain again. Wind brought destructive rain again. You are very clever at poking fun at weaklings. Yes, in this line, the poet seems to be telling the wind that wind pokes fun at weaklings. Wind is expert at poking fun. Poking fun means making fun, ridiculing, and mocking the weak things only, the weak objects only, the weak human beings only. The power of the wind is confined to those who are weak, who are not strong, who give up to the circumstances, who don't fight the circumstances tooth and nail. So here the poet means to say that the difficulties in life, the challenges in life make fun of the weak people, the people with weak heart, the people with the weak physique. Otherwise, difficulties, trials and tribulations, challenges of life, they are helpless at the hands of the strong people. They don't have any impact on the strong people. They have impact on the weak things only. The poet tried to make a request to the wind, asking her to behave softly. Though the wind doesn't behave like a child, as a child behaves softly, the wind behaves like an invigorated youth. So, as in the first line, the poet wants wind to behave like a child. But actually, how does wind behave? Wind behaves like an invigorated youth, filled with energy, filled with enthusiasm. Fine. It doesn't mind the destruction caused to others. Fine, they just keep on like the youth. They just keep on blowing as per their own pace, without minding what is happening behind, what they are leaving behind. So similar is the nature of wind. Frail crumbling houses, crumbling doors, crumbling rafters, crumbling woods, crumbling bodies, crumbling lives, crumbling hearts. Yeah. Here the poet says As I have already told you that wind's power is confined to everything that is weak in nature. So the poet is drawing our attention towards the destruction caused by the wind. What does wind do? And to whom does wind cause destruction? Wind causes destruction to frail means weak in strength, crumbling houses. The houses which are weak, which are not strongly built, they get crumbled, they get broken, they get collapsed. Similarly, doors which are wobbly, which are not strong, they get crumbled. Similarly, the rafters. What is rafter, my dear students? Rafter is the beam, it's the sloping beam on which roof is constructed. You must have seen that masons, while constructing the house, having constructed the walls, they just they use some, strong material. They use concrete, iron rods, and they lay the beam so that the roof can be built over that. So even the crumbling, even the frail rafters get crumbled, but the strong rafters don't get crumbled. Frail wood get crumbled. Frail bodies, even human bodies which are frail in nature, they get crumbled at the hands of the strong winds. Even the lives which are not strong in nature, they get crumbled. People with weak heart get crumbled. He wants to say that wind has its power confined to everything that is weak in nature. Everything that is weak in nature gets collapsed at the hands of the strong wind. When strong wind blows, all things which are weaklings, which are not strong, which don't have strength enough to stand against, they just succumb, they just surrender, they just give in, they collapse, they fall. Fine. In a way, the poet is willing to say, the poet wishes to say here that the challenges of life, the difficulties of life take toll on the weak people, the people who are strong at heart, the people who are strong in physics, the people who are strong every way, though those who are mentally firm and physically strong, they don't get impacted by the trials and tribulations of life. They just sail through smoothly. They don't let the difficulties dominate over them, rather they dominate over the difficulties. So this is the message here. The wind god winnows and crushes them all. In this particular line, the poet is is equating wind with the god. He is referring to wind as a wind god which winnows. Winnows is a particular word that is used for the grain being separated from the chaff. You must have seen the farmers doing this in villages. There is an entire process of threshing, and in that process of threshing, the grain is taken out of the straw of the chaff. Fine. So that is winnowing. I'll show you that it's by scrolling down. What is this entire process of winnowing? Here these two women you can see, they are in the process of winnowing the grain and separating the chaff, unwanted material, the dry grass that is not the eatable part of the grain is being separated from the eatable part of the non-eatable part of the grain is being separated from the eatable part of the grain. So that is means sifting, separating grain from the chaff. Chaff is the non-eatable part, that is straw. Fine. So how is wind indulging into the process of winnowing? Like farmers, winnow, they sift, they indulge into the process of winnowing, they separate grain from the chaff. I would like to spell the word chaff here. Perhaps you may not have heard it. This is chaff. This is the left out material. This is the straw when the grain is separated. Fine. So similar to the process of the sifting of the grain, separating of the rain, the wind god also indulges into this process of winnowing with human beings. How does he do so, or rest of the things? It separates the strong it separates the weak from the strong, and it crushes all the weaklings. Fine, it doesn't have its power, it doesn't have its control over whatsoever or whosoever is strong. So it separates the weak from the strong and crushes whatever is weak. Fine. So wind god also indulges into the process of winnowing. Life is all about adversities and prosperities. Will and woo are the part of life. It's nature. They are bound to happen. But the people who are strong, they sail through the time of adversities, and the people who are weak, they surrender, they give in, they succumb to that phase of difficulty. So god also winnows. Fine. And all the powers of wind god also winnows, and all the powers of destruction, all evil powers, they dominate the weak hearts, the weak minds, the people who are weak in every respect. He won't do what you tell him. So up to this part of the poem, the poet had a communication with rain. Now the poet is communicating with the readers. He has tried convincing rain that rain should, he had tried convincing wind, I'm sorry I spoke rain. He had tried convincing wind that wind should behave softly. It should behave like a delicate child instead of behaving like an astraid youth, an invigorated youth. Fine. But having realized that wind could not get convinced by his pleadings, he tried to make a request. But when he realized that wind was not going to listen to his requests, so what does he suggest to the human beings or to every weakling? He won't do what you tell him. He realized that wind is the master of his own choices. Wind is not going to be convinced. No one can persuade wind to blow the way one wants to. No, wind has to blow the way wind wants to blow. He won't do what you tell him. It's quite difficult to persuade wind to do whatever you wish wind to do. So it means adversities are part and parcel of life. Trials and tribulations are bound to be confronted by human beings. Difficulties come when they have to come. Hardships are essential. Hardships are, inevitable. They are to come in your life. So he won't do what you tell him. So we can't decide the course of life as we want to tread on. No. So, what is the solution in such circumstances? When we cannot control life, when we don't have control over our destiny, when we don't know what kind of path has been laid in front of us, so it's better let's build strong homes. Instead of fearing that wind would come and our homes would get collapsed, we should make a provision, we should make preparations, and we should build strong homes so that they can stand storm, they can stand strong winds. Let's join the doors firmly. So other thing we have to do is we should join, we should close, we should fasten the doors firmly. Firmly means strongly, so that any kind of strong wind, no kind of strong wind is able to collapse our doors. Fine. Practice to form the body. We should build our bodies strong. We should practice certain things in our life which makes our body strong, like yoga and certain other things he might be pointing towards. Make the heart steadfast. We should also strengthen our heart so that adversities, wind is the symbol of adversities, as I have told you, so that adversities of life fail to take a toll on us. Fine. They rather surrender before us. They rather succumb before us. Instead of we succumb to them, instead of we surrender to them, we must make ourselves so strong. We must make ourselves so strengthened that all the difficulties, all the problems, all the trials and tribulations, they beat a hasty retreat. They don't have the courage to confront us, because they have the courage to confront everything that is weak in strength. They cannot cause any harm to whatever is strong in nature. Do this, and the wind will be friends with us. And the poet further says that if we strengthen ourselves, if we make ourselves strong, then this wind, who seem to be destructive in nature, will be our friends. It won't be our enemy. It won't be hostile with us. He won't be hostile with us. He would become our friends. And friendship with wind is a kind of blessing for the human beings. If you have friendship with the adversities, if you have friendship with all the hardships of life, the hardships won't be able to cause any harm to you. Do our friends cause harm to us? Never. The wind blows out weak fires. He makes strong fires roar and flourish. Yeah, he again reiterates the idea that wind extinguishes, it blows out the weak fires. Like, if a matchstick is lit, a little gust of wind is there and it gets extinguished. But the strong fires, the fire in a forest, the stronger the wind blows, the stronger gets the intensity of the fire. Similarly, weak people get impacted by the fire in a negative sense, but strong people become stronger. The people with strength get strength from the wind, from the adversities. Adversities feed them strength. Adversities feed them power. They roar, they flourish, they prosper, they progress, they polish, they get preened, they become better at the hands of the adversities. They learn lessons from adversities and become stronger. So his friendship is good. The poet says that it's good to make wind a friend. The friendship of wind is good. If we embrace all the adversities, if we embrace all the hardships of our life, if we don't let any adversity impact our life, if we make our adversities our friends, so we'll improve in life, we'll flourish in life, we'll get strengthened. We praise him every day. Here the poet seems to be keeping the wind on a high pedestal, as God remains on a high pedestal in our life. And when we make adversities our friend, we do not have any complaint against our friends. We rather praise him. We praise our friends. We don't condemn, we don't criticize, we don't rue, we don't condemn and criticize and disapprove our friends. Rather we praise our friends. So friendship of adversities, friendship of wind is good, and wind befriends those who are strong in nature, who are strong in every sense of existence. So the message the poet seems to be giving to all human beings is that we should not get impacted by the adversities of life. We should not surrender to hardship of life. Rather we should fight hardships tooth and nail. Then hardships won't be able to cause any harm to us. We'll rather get polished at the hands of the adversities. Fine. So, dear students, we have explored this poem word for word. I hope I could justify the explanation of the poem. Now, towards the end of this session, I would like to discuss with you the literary devices used by the poet in this poem. So let's discuss all the literary devices. The first thing is the rhyme scheme. Let me tell you, this poem doesn't contain any rhyme scheme. This has been written in free verse. So this poem has been written in free verse. It doesn't contain any rhyme scheme. Fine, this is the first thing. Second thing is the literary devices, the figures of speech. As I told you, as the poet makes wind, that is a natural phenomenon, behave like a human being. So the most dominating figure of speech in this poem is personification. Wind has been personified. Personification. I just failed to write it in one go. So this is personification. You can understand how it is personification. The poet is using personal pronouns like you, he, his for the wind. That is a natural phenomenon. That's why there is personification. Then the other of speech is here. Here you can see I'm trying to mark it for you. these 3 lines, the repetition of don't at the beginning of consecutive 2 or 3 lines. Here it is in 3 lines. So here is a figure of speech anaphora. If you have not heard it before, please keep it in your knowledge that whenever there is the repetition of the same word at the beginning of 2 or more than 2 consecutive lines, there is a figure of speech anaphora. Fine, let's find out, is there any other figure of speech? Yeah, in this portion I'm just trying to mark it for you. Crumbling word has been repeated, so here is repetition. The figure of speech here is repetition. Fine, let's look for any other figure of speech. There is alliteration also. Alliteration is figure of speech when a sound, consonant sound is repeated at a conspicuous position. Let me mark it for you. Yeah, here it is the repetition of W in wind and window, winnows, and want and what. So here it is alliteration, my dear students. I'm not typing it, you have heard it. Alliteration has been used, repetition has been used, anaphora is there, personification is there, and the poem has been written in free verse. It contains a beautiful message. It's a poem composed by Subramanya Bharati. The poem was first composed in Tamil language. It is the translation of that poem by A.K. Ramanujan. Fine. So this is all about this poem. Wind. I hope you got everything about it. You need to revise it again. Fine. So wishing you a happy learning. I take leave of you. Thank you so much.